Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and envies of the world. This is Doc. I wanted to share this time with you because I have decided to start a new project in which I am interviewing podcasters who are of Asian descent and who I personally look up to and see as people who are pillars of my community, people who I see as representing for the people and something that's important to me because usually in this pro wrestling podcasting media personality space, we don't see a lot of diversity usually. Unless you look onto my show and you see how diverse, how vast, how different everyone is within this space. And, I just thought it would be great to highlight and pay homage to people who I have a great respect for and who I believe represent for the Asian community at large within this space and who have big voices and contribute. And besides all of us eating rice, the other thing that connects us is our love of pro wrestling. And that's just what I wanted to share with people.
I
Thank you
got power, poison,
so
pain,
much.
and joy inside my DNA. I got hustle, though, ambition, flow inside my DNA. I was born like this, born like this, immaculate conception. I transform like this, perform like this, which shouts you a new weapon. I don't contemplate, I meditate, then off your fucking.
Hello, hello, hello. Or I guess I'm going to say Neho, because with me on this episode, we have the man, the myth, the legend, Kanto Boy from, from Ontario. We got with us Wai Ting or Wai Ting, however you want to say it. He is probably one of the first Asian American voices I have ever heard in this podcasting in general, but specifically for podcasting for pro wrestling. He's a he's been involved in combat sports and pro wrestling since 2005 with the Fight Network. You might have heard him on live audio wrestling, like where most of us fell in love with Wei and John and the rest of them. He is the creative director at Post Wrestling and runs Post Wrestling along with the infallible John Pollock. And Wei, getting this interview with Wei was sort of reaffirming that I made the right choice to start this hobby and start sharing this piece of my life with you people. And Wei was like, he's the guiding light for me as far as getting into this, just being yourself, be professional, but be yourself. And to get this, to get this time with him, to get this kind of endorsement from a guy like Wei Ting and what he represents for the community, what he represents for us as Asian American podcasters, Asian Canadian podcasters, just, because he's an immigrant, someone that came over here and him and his parents and his brother and all of them, they made lives for themselves over in Canada. And, he's a husband, he's a father, he's thriving, and he's just an example of someone following their own path to do what they want in their life and to make a life out of this. And I have nothing but respect for Wei and John and everyone at Post Wrestling and uh, to be able to get someone of his stature to me because of what he represents, it's it's just it feels good to be here and to share this with you guys because I know I loved having this conversation with Wei. I hope he had a good time talking to me. But I hope y'all have a good time listening to this because this really was something that I've always dreamed of having a conversation with Wei. Years of listening to Rewind Away, Review Away, you know, and it's just this man, he's great. He's a great man, and I'm just happy to share this with you guys. He is one of my pillars of pro wrestling podcasting. We talk about it. Who I consider the pillars of Asian pro wrestling podcasting. There's three pillars to me, three musketeers, if you will. There is YT, there is WH Park, and there is, Al, aka Henny Omega, and Al with the champion sound. I just I'm so happy to have gotten this interview, and I am so happy to share this with you guys because I always want to pay homage to those who came before me and those who inspired me to do this. And with this being my series, paying homage to all those big Asian American, Asian Canadian, Asian podcasters out there, Asian YouTubers out there, Asian anybody who does becomes this and realizes that, we are not a monolith. We can do what we set out to do, and we don't have to be put in a box. And Wei is a good example of me for that, as somebody chasing something and accomplishing something. And once again, please, I know I got a little bit long-winded here, but this is something that was important to me to get done. And he is someone that I really enjoy talking to. And please, um, enjoy.
Hello, hello, hello. How's the world doing out there? This is Doc, aka Dr. Lariat, aka the Dim Sum Don, aka the Invisible Pandesal, Don Calamansi, aka Teddy Longanisa, aka Cherokee Diaswang, aka the Flanimal Bautista. I'll walk around the fire pit of Lechon, aka Yam Cha, real smooth now, aka your host. And joining me today, sometimes you say hello, sometimes you say hola, sometimes you say neho. I'm gonna say why, because joining me today is the legend. You know him as one of the founders of Post Wrestling. Welcome, Mr. Wai Ting.
Hey, wow. I don't know what to call you after all of those AKAs. I mean, I don't know which. I tend to maybe even prefer some of those to I guess Ron. Sorry, is that?
Yeah.
Can I keep
You call me Ron. You could call me Doc. Either one is a good.
I like Dim Sum Don. Can I call you that?
Yeah. You call me the Dim Sum Don.
All right.
Yeah. Welcome, Wai. I call you Wai because I know like nobody else really does, and I do know people that, and we're here to discuss a couple things.
Well, what do people call me? What do you mean?
Like every time I hear anybody pronounce you or introduce you into your shows or whatever shows you're guesting on, everybody says Wai Ting.
Yes.
And because like last night, I'm really a longtime fan of yours, all the way to the law and like, and I saw you show up on Fight Network stuff because I would watch Fight Network here in the U.S. sometimes because
wow.
you guys would have like really good documentaries.
Oh, wow.
So like when you would pop up like on say like a UFC thing, just like backstage when they do like the interviews and stuff or like the run, I see you, I'd be like, oh hey, that's why, and like like
Wow.
yeah,
I say
uh,
wow because I didn't think anybody ever watched any of that stuff, or at least if they did, I didn't think that they would remember it. So that's pretty cool.
yeah, I have those one of those kinds of brains where you just like kind of remember things that are. That's why I'm good at Jeopardy, you know.
Mm. Hmm.
but like you know, in those kind of spaces, in these kind of spaces, whether it be like the MMA space or like the wrestling space, you don't really see uh, Asian Canadians, Asian Americans in those kind of like spots. And brother, let me tell you, uh, what you do, it, there's pretty much there's you, there's WH, and if I'm looking at like other guys from the space that are Asian American that I like really look up to, there was also Al of Virtual Pros. Shout out to you, Al. And there was like there's not really much more after that. If I'm looking in like the podcast space,
Hmm.
especially when it comes to like Asian American podcast content creators, there's literally like you and WH as like the top, tippy top guys who are still going today, and like
Yeah. Well, appreciate it. First of all, I appreciate the invite to just even discuss this because yeah, it's among. I did like one other interview in the past that was kind of talking about the sort of like immigrant experience, and
yeah,
that
brother.
might be as close as like I've come to maybe discussing something like this, but it's not often we get the chance to even focus on this topic, so I appreciate it. And you're I didn't realize, but you're actually like very right in how few I guess representatives we might actually have in this particular space. And it's honestly not even something I've actively kind of thought about or considered. I mean I knew that there weren't many others, but I never considered how few. And that's surprising, just given how. I mean, I would consider even our niche quite large these days. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
By the looks of like your between your Patreon and your website and how many subscribers you guys have,
Hmm.
patreon.com/post wrestling. Please support my guy there. Go to was it you guys on Chop Tees now?
Yes, we are. Yeah,
Go
yeah.
to
Our friend Dicky runs that. So
yeah.
yeah, Chop. Yeah, we'll get the plugs out there later. It's
Oh
fine.
yeah, brother. I love putting my guys over so they put some money in this man's bank account. He needs it. He got a new baby, so it's all good. Yeah, man. Because like whenever I look for something right to listen to, and you have your story, like you kind of told like a little bit of your immigrant story, and then on your guys' YouTube, you do have like the profile on Wai Ting. John, I understand that John calls you waiting and Wei because of like I guess that's how your friendship is, but I just like no disrespect. I just want to like call you by your name, because I do have friends that like you know I don't know if like any of my listeners know like because there is a Chinese name that people use, and there's like an American name or English name that people use for professional reasons. Like for instance, my father-in-law he uses like the name like Andrew for his American name for when he goes out and he does his work, right? And like I have names, names of my friends like Benjamin or Andrew or like Peter, but
Hmm.
that's not their Chinese name. That's their front-facing American names, and you guys get to choose your names, and you why just go by why, and I think that's really interesting to me. As like, what prompted you to not use an American name?
Yeah. Okay. So let me just address like way versus why. Again, I appreciate the fact that you are even giving thought to this. It's honestly yeah, not something I really expect. I guess that for me at this point, I I certainly don't mind being called Wei. In fact, in some cases, I think it feels a bit more natural to me even to introduce myself as that.
Yeah.
It's true that like if I were to if I sorry, is that that sound is that
That's my
sorry, am I
wife's
supposed to hear
phone.
that? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, so just on that, it's true that like if I were to speak Cantonese, which is like what my language is,
Yeah.
it would be Wai. That would be how you would actually pronounce it.
Wai.
But I also wouldn't expect somebody else
Yeah.
to do that pronunciation with that proper tone, right?
Yeah.
So it's an it certainly is an anglicized version of the name, and I'm comfortable with it. So you can call me Wei, like you can call me Y. There's not really like a proper pronunciation. It's
Yeah.
more it more comes down to preference. And I guess secondly, how I chose that instead of an actual English name. So I immigrated into Canada when I was 5 with my parents, right? So it was at a point where I have two older brothers. They're like about like consider like 12 years and 11 years older than me. So they already had the opportunity to pick their English names by the time we moved here. But for me, I guess they wanted to leave it up to me somehow, or at least like my parents didn't really know enough English to suggest a name for me. So my kindergarten teacher at the time simply suggested, well, why don't we just call him by his Chinese name, which is Wei Chung. And that's what I did. And I never got around to picking an English name ever. The only thing that I think I decided to do once I had the autonomy to do it was to drop the second part of the name because I just recognized it'd be easier for me to write, for me to, tell people and for them to repeat it. So it just became Way, like upon university, pretty much.
Yeah. See, I did the research because, like, I even asked my wife because my wife is Canto also.
Oh, she is cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Cool.
Because I was like debating with her, should I introduce him as Ting Wai Chung? Like, should I do that?
That just sounds weird.
That just sounds weird, right? Like, she was like, no, your accent's really off. You shouldn't do that. And I was like, oh, okay. So she decided like, just tell him by his English name, Wai Ting. I was like, Wai Ting, like that's fine. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, all right, because she told me like you're doing too much. I was like, yeah, kind of. But you know what, man? Like, I say this because in my space, right? I'm not even talking like about the wrestling space, the wrestling Discord space, or wrestling like podcast space. I'm saying like, so I grew up like in Southern California. I grew up like before like I moved to Rancho Cucamonga. Shout out to Nicholas and Matthew. I went to a private school, Catholic school, where most of my friends were all Filipino or Latino, like or like Vietnamese. These are all my friends, right? So it's, a bunch of like. And then once we moved to like Rancho Cucamonga, I was surrounded by the Caucasian peoples, and like I think me and my sister were like the only Filipinos, Asians in the whole school, and like trying to navigate that as opposed to like and like you go somewhere and you're different. You're like completely. I go from a school where I'm one of like however many people, and then after that I go home to like my grandma's house, and I'm just playing with my cousins. So it's like I'm never not feeling othered to being completely othered by being put in that kind of space. And I know like in Canada, population for like Chinese people is pretty high. And especially like I am assuming like somewhere like you grew up in the suburbs like of in Ontario, right? And like Scarborough, like and like nowadays I know like Toronto has like a really fire Chinese food scene because I watched all those videos, man, and like hopefully we go to Toronto one of these days and just like get some of those. Like I saw that you guys have that lobster tower because I saw Simu Lu go to one of those places with lobster towers.
Yeah, I've been to it a few times.
Yeah.
Oh, honestly, a bit overrated.
Yeah, I saw that, and then I saw like a couple of your guys' dim sum spots, and and like, what, why? Like, if you ever come down here, SGV area, Temple City, Arcadia, like, bro,
What's SVG or S?
SGV stands for San Gabriel Valley.
Oh, okay.
My opinion, because I grew up here, is like it's the best Chinese food like around. Because I tried it, like, I tried it in Vegas, I tried it in San Francisco, I tried it like Chicago, I tried it in uh, you know British Columbia, I like Vancouver. But like over here, I tried it in Seattle. But over here, like there's nothing better than like going to like even a Hong Kong cafe or
Mm-hmm.
or like what you do in the morning when you on the weekends, you go get Yam Cha. You go Yam Cha. And
Yeah, dim sum. Yeah.
yeah, and like it's like the most amazing kind of food. And
Okay. All right.
yeah, once you guys out here, like I'll take you. I know like they call it a sponsor in Japan, but I guess I'll be your sponsor over here, bro.
Yeah,
Like
you'd be my HGV sponsor.
I'll
All
be
right.
your SGV sponsor, bro.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, cause like when we're in these like, I'll say white spaces, we tend to like code switch and tend to like try to assimilate. I think as far as like the immigrant experience, because I'm a child of immigrants, but I'm not an immigrant myself. And from a Filipino point of view, like we would speak English at home, and when I was going to school with all my Filipino friends, we'd speak English. So once I went to the white school, people were just looking at me weird at how good my English was, as opposed to just treating me like another person. I was seen like as an anomaly. So I got quiet because nobody wanted to talk to me, and they put me in ESL.
Really?
Yeah, until my mom complained and said, "Do we sound like we don't speak English to you? He's just shy." Yeah,
Wow.
but
Interesting.
I'm not sure if you had that experience but you came here when you were 5, so
Yeah.
I don't know what grade 1 is in Canada, but
Like 6. Yeah,
6.
pretty much.
So
So I came here like in senior kindergarten, and I mean they put me in ESL because I needed it,
yeah,
and I was probably in ESL for like a couple years. I want to say it maybe up until like grade 2, and after that I guess I didn't need it so much because I watched so much TV. And in speaking to people on the playground, like you pick up the language fast.
yeah,
And I just remember for me, there was maybe a point where rather than thinking in Cantonese, which is how I mean I probably spent the first 5 years, like my internal voice was in Cantonese. My internal voice switched to speaking in English, and that's when I guess I realized English now became my sort of dominant language.
yeah.
So yeah.
And then like to go like past this, like growing up, did you ever have that feeling of othering where you were growing up, or did you have enough of a solid like friend group where you didn't feel like casting aside?
Yeah. So I would say actually my community that I grew up in was predominantly Chinese. So I actually had a probably a unique experience in that like my school in my surroundings were very much like felt like a bit of a Chinese community where I did feel certainly you still feel like you're somewhat of an other when you're thinking about maybe yourself outside of the walls of your little community.
Yeah,
And when I considered my own identity, even at that age, just in the world, like when I thought about myself beyond just, I don't know, like my classroom, I always felt a bit strange and maybe I would even say uncomfortable for myself, or I should say maybe more like different from others in that I always felt a bit more maybe connected outside of like sort of like traditional Chinese community pop culture
yeah,
than maybe a lot of my friends would. So, like I'd be into like rock music, and I don't know how much like my friends had maybe a similar interest or whatever. And so maybe that kind of like made me feel a little bit awkward at times. Where I don't know, like you know the thing where like they say if you're sort of a whatever second generation, a child of immigrants, you tend to not really fit in anywhere. You don't really fit in with like, the people that are for instance, very Filipino, or
Yeah.
like in my case, like very Chinese. And you also don't fit in with people that are just like white or black or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I think that I definitely had a bit of that, and that resulted in like maybe more of a sort of like a little mini identity crisis, as I think a lot of people have,
Yeah.
when they're like in high school.
Yeah.
So I think I found my connections with a few people that might have been similar to, you know what? I say that, but like I actually found my connection with people that also felt somewhat outcast from I think whatever. Like I always tended to be a lot more comfortable with people that weren't necessarily like traditionally popular in school.
Okay.
And that's kind of where I found my little community. But I mean, to be quite honest, like I spent a lot of my time, especially throughout high school, being a bit of a loner,
Hmm.
and not really until like later on in later years where I started to maybe develop a bit more of a social circle with people that again weren't necessarily like me, but were like me, in that maybe we didn't fit in elsewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Because like when it comes to like the law and what you guys do at Post, you guys would tell like the story of how you guys would go bar hopping in the elf costumes.
Right. Yeah.
And like I always have like this thing like where I say like when you find your people, it doesn't matter where you find them, you kind of blossom. And when it
Sure.
comes to the wrestling community, and you worked for the law, and like you were a wrestling fan, so like there there's no way that you're going to be surrounded by people who are kind of like introverts in a way that's the traditional introvert.
Hmm.
Because like you,
Hmm.
you you yourself said you're a loner and you're introverted, but here you are
Hmm.
running one of the biggest wrestling podcasts in the world. I'm saying that because it really is. And it make
Really? Oh,
yeah,
I mean, I guess you're right. I guess you're right.
yeah,
Yeah.
because a niche is a niche, but like I want to give you your props, brother. Like
Thanks, man. Thank you. Appreciate it.
yeah, you guys run like one of the most professional looking websites, professional sounding podcast. Everything is like A1, and like that's that's something that appeals to me. And I know you come in from like a producer background, and like you and John met like at a was it like a school of broadcasting or something?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We
Yeah,
went to like TV school. Yeah,
yeah,
radio school. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, and all that stuff, man. And like you talked about like how you fell out of wrestling and then you came back to it. Was it because of the work that you came back to it?
I would say largely, yeah. Like I kind of fell out of love with it in like the mid 2000s, which for me, like I had a real big peak in the early 2000s, and then I just kind of fell out of love with it. Decided to move on to something else. That something else happened to be MMA at the time.
Yeah,
Um, but I was brought back into wrestling through my internship at the Fight Network, which was just starting out in like the mid 2000s, and through that I got to satisfy a lot of my curiosities for wrestling outside of the WWE. Like, we were airing Ring of Honor, so I got to like watch a lot of Ring of Honor, Pro Wrestling Noah, which I helped produce with the English versions of with like Mauro Ranallo. That was a lot of fun.
yeah,
So that brought me back. In fact, it was actually, but it didn't really make me a WWE fan because I thought the WWE was really shitty in that period. So I would like, go to the law. I would call screen for the show, but I would have very little interest in the actual shows themselves.
mm,
I think what ultimately brought me back was doing the retro reviews with John. John recognized like, okay, like this guy knows wrestling, or at least like knows wrestling from the past, and
yeah,
so started doing that, and then that started picking up, and I volunteered. I remember actually, and I don't know if I regret it now or not, but I volunteered. I was like, you know what we should do? We should do more of this. We should review Raw every single Monday, and that was probably like 15 years ago,
oh
or
man,
more, and here we are, pretty much having reviewed every single edition of Raw in that time. Yeah, so that kind of brought me back in a big way, and I'll definitely say I'm probably, well, obviously I'm a lot more into wrestling now, or at least I'm
yeah,
a lot more connected to it now than I ever was in the past. I really actually love the process of analyzing the show and evaluating a show, and just even like trying to vocalize my thoughts on how I feel coming out of the show. So that kind of motivates me more than anything. Whether or not the quality of the show is good or bad,
Yeah.
I still enjoy the process of talking about it.
Yeah, I recently did like a backlash review with my friend Jason, um, and like there is something like about like really thinking and being critical and about it and trying to present it without like, because you guys when you used to do it, you used to like go move for move before, but like I quickly realized like that's like not what's important. What's important is what the impressions left on you, and yeah, your reviews like I gotta tell you, my one of my favorite reviews you did was Ibushi fighting through those apartments like it was like he was playing a
the
live
apartment
action
wrestling.
version. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like in a live action version of like Final Fight or something, and the way you guys covered it, like because you guys just sounded like it was like the best show ever, and it and, like,
Did you watch the match?
yeah, because like he
You
fights.
did.
Yeah, he literally is set up like a video game, and like Antonio Hanna is basically like the player two character in the whole match. Uh,
So I guess from me, I'm curious to hear about your experience because I often wonder like how many people actually watch the matches that we talk about, especially the retro shows, versus just strictly listening to the podcast.
oh,
But for you, what was sort of your interaction with it? Did you realize that we were reviewing the show, and so you sought out the match to watch first before listening to it, or was it listening to it first and then watching the match? How did you interact with
yeah.
it?
So whenever I listen to like a review podcast, whether it be movies, Simpsons, King of the Hill, whatever,
Yeah.
I usually love to watch the show first,
Mm.
and then form my own opinion, and then like hear the other reviews and see if there's opinions match up. And you guys match my opinion completely.
Cool.
Like, well, it's not like you match up completely because everybody has their own opinions and everybody watches their stuff the own way. Because like I know, you really love that John Cena Bray Wyatt Firefight Funhouse match. Yeah,
I did.
because of the way it was filmed, the presentation of it, it was
The
completely
idea,
different
yeah.
from like everything. And people were kind of like trying to like lambast you on it, but I'm like, bro, if you look at it, like the way it's filmed completely different than how WWE films any of their matches. It was actually filmed cinematically. When you see like all the Kevin Dunnisms, like the cutaways, the zoom ins, the zoom outs, all that stuff, that was gone from this piece of like. I'm not even gonna really call it a match because it's like it was more like a skit or like a show. Like it was more like that. And if you go into it like that with that kind of mindset, that it's not really a match, it's more of a presentation, and like
Yeah.
it's like, oh yeah, and then I go after it, and like it's funny, and like there's no way they thought it was gonna be taken seriously because of all there's so many gags in there. Like why would the puppets be the commentators all of a sudden? It like reminded me of like what you would see like on like a Wonder Chosen or like or like what's that, like Tim and Eric, but it was like
But
different.
it had a point,
Yeah.
like to me, what ultimately I watch professional wrestling for storytelling.
Yeah.
That's how I kind of became a fan of it, is to follow characters and their journeys towards becoming a champion or becoming a good guy or becoming a bad guy. And in this case, I mean, I ultimately just found the storytelling within that little segment itself very captivating because I felt like it was a sort of a deeper meaning type of thing that you don't typically get in pro wrestling. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, like I think the best pro wrestling is when you can tell it through in-ring action, and I think that's why this turned so many people off because like it was come so too far removed from like what professional wrestling should be. I get that. I guess I've always just been a lot more open-minded with like to me it's kind of binary. Am I entertained by it? Am I captivated by it? Or am I not?
Yeah.
And things like this and things like Kota Ibushi apartment wrestling, I've always maybe been intrigued by because I'm so curious about how people can push the boundaries of what professional wrestling can be, rather than just like
What it is.
bell to bell action, which is
Yeah.
great. But I think it can often be more than that, and I just want to at least see people experiment.
Yeah. Because as a medium, I feel like you can use the blocks of pro wrestling to push something like into a different kind of space. Like if you like watch anime, or if you even watch like the Creed movie series, right? Creed is like super pro wrestling. This second generation fighter
Rocky.
comes from out of nowhere. Yeah, Rocky is pro wrestling, all of it, and like it's just like these are like hallmark tropes that can be used to present wrestling in different ways that we don't see. And like,
Absolutely.
I think it's interesting that you also come from that point, that viewpoint, because like sometimes you get kind of bored. I mean, the in-ring can be great, but you get kind of bored. Like for me right now, I'm kind of bored with what's presented as the product, whether it's New Japan or WWE or AEW. I mean, I still jump in for like a really good match, but like right now, it's not like really capturing me or my attention. What has been really doing that is doing these interviews has really ignited my love for pro wrestling again. Because like just talking to people and talking about like memories about like when it was like the height of their fandom, like because like wait, you said you were really big into the 2000s as a kid. Were you big like into like Bret Hart and the Hart Foundation, or were you more like a I don't know, WCW was even big in Canada back then.
I'm definitely more of a new generation kid. So
Yeah.
like I kind of had my wrestling fandom begin in about like 92, 93 ish. And that kind of coincided with the Brett run. Being Canadian and still at the time feeling it was very novel to see like, even though I never saw like, Asian representation. I mean, I
Yeah.
think at that age I was already maybe a lot more I was a lot more sort of identifying with my Canadian identity than
Yeah.
even my Chinese identity. Like if there was like somebody representing the People's Republic of China, I don't know if I would have connected with it as much as Bret the Hitman Hart, who was from Canada, and so that was interesting to me. The fact that like here's somebody from the country that I'm from, who was number one, who was the best, you know. So and beyond that, just like what he represented in terms of value was like, I mean, he's still probably my favorite of all time. So I was a big Bret fan throughout the early '90s. Stepped out maybe after he had his peak run. And I never kind of, I jumped out at about like 96, and I didn't really jump back into like late 99. So I actually missed
Okay.
the bulk of his ending.
Yeah. Because when I looked for representation, when I was like trying to like find somebody, like the guy who really spoke out to me, because there's not really that many Filipinos or like real Asians. I mean, there was like Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and there was like Mudo. Like I saw Mudo on TV, but like the guy who really spoke to me, because like I was kind of a chubby kid, it was like guys like Vader, guys like Cactus Jack, guys like Earthquake and Typhoon,
Interesting.
Yokozuna, because like I was a big kid, right? So like as a big back boy, a sturdy boy, like I saw like myself in these fat wrestlers, and like
So you were able to find representation, not necessarily in race, but in just maybe like do we want to say like archetype of
yeah, well, like for like Mick Foley, right? Because in my
yeah.
family, like I'm kind of I'm the weirdo. I'm like I'm like outside of like what my cousins and my sibling and all that. Like I was like the quiet outsider kid, right? So like when I saw in Mick Foley as Cactus Jack he was also like out on the loom, like out the farm, like he was just like a funny weirdo guy who talked all funny and like all that stuff. It's just that's who I found myself in, and like as I keep doing these interviews, I feel like, wow, I really really love Mick Foley as a character, because like he was completely antithesis to like say like my other favorites like Sting, like Luger, and Hulk Hogan. He was like a complete antithesis to them.
Yeah.
And you find like when you find like a characteristic of somebody, and that can like connect you to the wrestler, whether it be their nationality, like you did with Bret Hart, or like for me, like it was innate like characteristics that I found in Mick Foley, and I kind of found like what's it called? Once I saw like the dude love tapes and all that stuff that they put on Raw, I was like, oh, I was right the whole time to like this guy, because he was also like a big wrestling fan and a big freak and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like when we look at like representation in wrestling, and you've gone over this on your show, you hear the Asian flute music. Like if I'm being realistic, it wasn't until like I saw Batista and he had the Filipino flag tattoo on his arm, and I was like, oh, this is my guy. This is a guy. And then like I saw my little cousins, they looked up to him because they're like, yeah, this is like he's like a Filipino superhero. Look at him. And like he goes all the way to WrestleMania. He travels to the Philippines. When he goes to the Philippines, he's treated with like a ticker tape parade, and they have him on all the news shows. Like and at that time there was also Manny Pacquiao that was like a huge boxing star, right? Like
Hmm.
crazy draw. We'd have family parties where we go to cheer him on to win, and like at that time having Batista and Pacquiao like in like the main in like kind of a mainstream kind of way, even though it's like combat sports, so it's not really mainstream, but it's like for me because I love boxing, I love MMA, I love pro wrestling. Having
It's more
like
mainstream than pro wrestling.
yeah,
Yeah.
boxing is way more because it's
Oh yeah.
internationally known. So having like two guys from two sports that I love, being representing like my people, it's like
Yeah.
it was like yeah, hell yeah, and like it's like and you got Brandon the Truth Vera. I'm not gonna
Hmm.
I'm not gonna sleep on him, but like having like these guys like on TV and like being like stars. I was 20 at the time, so like having that kind of thing, it made me like really have a feel heartened. We
Awesome.
we don't really see that like nowadays. I guess they made Joaquin Wild into a Latino man, and I guess Jeff Cobb is now part of the bloodline. So
Yeah.
it's like it's still there like because like we know as a community whenever we know someone is like whatever part half whatever married into it because like nowadays we see Olivia Rodrigo, we see Bruno Mars,
Hmm.
and of course Big Dave Batista. He's one of the biggest actors going right now.
Yeah.
So like it's good to see that representation, and I know like for you guys where like you know there's not really that many Kanto wrestlers or there's not really that many Chinese wrestlers in general that you see presented on TV in a position where they could really matter.
Yeah. Throughout the WWE's history, we had two, and they were both in the Cruiserweight Classic. It was, of course, there's Jason Lee, who
Yeah, he's
got eliminated
excellent.
in the first round.
Yeah,
And then there was Ho Ho Lun, who might be like, at this point, probably the most famous pro wrestler to have ever come out of Hong Kong.
hey,
And it's just, I mean, I get the sense they mainly hired him because he was probably the most advanced, like, Chinese, pro wrestler
yeah,
that was in their system that could help agent and guide some of the Chinese speaking, the Mandarin speaking wrestlers there.
yeah,
But that was sort of it. But man, like in terms of like Filipinos, there are a lot in at least a lot more in comparison, in wrestling history.
yeah.
But do you who do you feel like flies the flag like the highest?
Well, obviously, it's my guy TJP. He wears the flag in his gear,
Hmm.
and like when he won the cruiserweight title, that actually made news in Philippines. Like he was like all over
Really?
like Rappler. He was like on like the Inquirer, Philippines. Like
Wow,
yeah,
that's
because
awesome.
like when someone like is on, when we see someone, even though he's American, right?
Yep.
So I know what you're saying about like when you're Filipino American, you're not really Filipino, right? That's a thing still. They're like he's Filipino, but he's not Filipino. So like TJ like wins. He wears the flag. He talks about having pride in his people, and I love that dude. TJ is like one of my favorite. TJ
Mm.
is really one of my favorites. So like it's cool to see that, and it's cool like nowadays like we see Asians more in the mainstream like and presented more as than just like the sexless kung fu fighter because we got Simu Liu out there,
Hmm.
we got Steven Yeun out there,
Yeah.
we got like Chim Tang Tarongsu like showing for like the hip hop Asians, like Ryan Nigahiga, like these people, like having all these people, like I think it was like Asian YouTube, like in the early 2000s, like in the 2000s, like most of the big stars were like Asian American, Asian Canadians, and I think that's cool to like think about and go back on and like think about representation that I didn't have growing up. Because if I'm looking for representation on TV, I have Dante Bosco and I have Ernie Reyes Jr. and like so like growing up you don't really like we as like Asian Americans or Asian Canadians don't really see ourselves like presented as in the way like as we see how people are now, and that's just an evolution of media and the evolution of like how our culture moves, because now everything that's Asian is no longer different. Everything Asian is like cool. Like everybody loves K-pop. Everybody loves like
Hmm.
anime. Everybody loves like the food. Like boba is pretty much ubiquitous now.
Hmm.
As I saw on that shark, there was that shark up there.
Okay.
Yeah, those Montreal people try to promote boba as their drink.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Simulu clip. Yeah.
Yeah, but
So on that note, I yeah, like growing up, especially as somebody who was maybe a lot more like interested in Western pop culture than like Asian pop culture.
yeah.
Like a lot of my friends might have like maybe start like their pop culture consumption might have been actually more like towards like what was happening in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Whereas like I kind of grew up on Western television, so like I grew up a lot on just like things that were mainstream, in North America. I would never like, yeah, you'd never see like Chinese people, you never see Asian Americans or Asian people in period, right?
Yeah.
I'll say like for me, I think when I started becoming a big wrestling fan again and listening to shows like The Law and hearing people talk so highly of Japanese wrestling and people like Kenta Kobashi, Mitsuharu Misawa, Toshiaki Kawada,
Hell yeah.
upon finally like being able to watch those matches, I actually, despite the fact that I'm not Japanese, despite the fact that I'm like an entire world removed away from like what their upbringings were, but just the fact that like I could see people that looked like me being regarded as, at least by critics, the top of their industry,
Yeah.
gave me a lot of I guess like helped me with my sort of struggles with self-worth in some way, because like for instance, like I'd never see like Chinese people or like Asian people in like rock music or something.
Yeah.
In fact, like if you turn to Hollywood, more often than not, the like Asian male would be just the sort of nerdy character. Like William Hung was sort of our representation,
Oh.
for example, right?
Yeah, man.
So to be able to like enter or at least like be part of a fandom where like Japanese people, the people that look like Asians, weren't looked at as the sort of weak,
Other, yeah.
nerds, and instead like the strong sort of like I want to say standard of like quality
Yeah.
that was big for me, and that's why I've always. I'm probably a big part of my interest in even getting into Japanese wrestling was because of that.
Yeah. That's also a big reason why I do love Japanese pro wrestling, because even though they're not my people, they look like me. They look like people I would go to like restaurants with or hang out with, or like people that sort of like they eat rice, as Joe Coy said, rice is rice. And yeah, just like with me and you, why like you represent someone to me that's like a standard that I want to reach one day. Like this is some guy. You're a guy who I look at and like I know like this is a guy that put his face out there, put his work out there, and he's, in my opinion, you're thriving. You're thriving, and it's good for the culture. And I know people say for the culture for like stuff like for black people, but like for the culture for me is just like a term like. As I see like people like rising up from like that kind of like have the same kind of background that I have, like child of immigrants, ate rice every day. My grandma's actually half Cantonese, so like
wow.
so like I feel.
Does she cook?
Oh yeah, when my grandma was alive, she cooked a lot, but it was mostly Filipino food. But she would always tell us like, "Hey, we celebrate this because your great grandpa was Chinese, so we do
You
it
kind of
this
get
way."
the best of all worlds. You're getting
Brother.
some Filipino cooking. Maybe you get to eat some Cantonese food as well.
Yeah. We would always go to like we get Yam Cha like every Sunday after church. We go to like all the Chinese restaurants because that'd be what my parents would love to eat.
Cool.
And like I'm not lacking for eating Chinese food, and my father-in-law, like my in-laws live with me, so like my father-in-law always cooks up. I'm drinking tong every night.
Yeah,
as what you should, because it's good for you. And yeah, man, like I'm happy I'm able to come here, and like if you never watch pro wrestling, I don't think we'd even be talking.
Yeah.
And like I know most of this conversation has been about like our experiences growing up and representation, and I want to say like it's good to have these conversations, because a lot of the time people are kind of afraid to have it, because a lot of people are afraid to have an opinion, and like a lot of people are afraid to like just like stand out and like speak for themselves, and like because everybody wants to assimilate. As far as like rock and roll goes, my uncle is actually Mike Inez from Alice in Chains. So,
What?
brother, yeah,
Holy shit! That's so cool.
yeah. Uh, I always love to bring that up because like people like because I know people like me because I love grunge rock, right? And like I love grunge, I love metal, I love punk music. So like whenever I bring up that my uncle is Mike Inez, people will go like, "Holy shit!" Just like you did, and like it's cool to see like somebody like him who's like kind of like just he's a standard bearer as far as being a bassist and all that stuff. It's really cool to have like that within my own family. But like, it's just like
When are you gonna get him on the podcast?
the prayers, man. I'm praying. Hopefully I get him soon because like that would be great, man.
Well, I mean, yeah, talk about like entering a world where like you might not be seen as sort of like like somebody who like everybody else and being able to break barriers. That's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, man. And I see you kind of in the same light, brother, because like
When I win my Grammy, maybe you can put me in the similar category.
when you get your Grammy for Almost Outstanding Podcast, but like, dude, it's like there is nothing better than talking to your heroes and them not failing you. Which I know you're like only a year older than me, so me as a man calling another man my hero is kind of funny. But it's true. When I ever hear you and WH do like the Marvel review shows you guys do, and like they're just like, I feel like there's like a real camaraderie there. Like and like the way you guys speak of like all the nerd stuff, and that's all based on like Western comics. Because I know you also love Western comics. I loved growing up as an X-Men fan and a Batman fan. Thank you, Fox Kids, for like
Totally.
and like that kind of gave me an outlet. And like because if you look at it too, like X-Men, Batman, pro wrestling, it's kind of the same thing because they're all like people
Yep.
in tights, colorful tights.
Yep.
And I've talked about it with other people. Like the new generation stands out for so many of us who were watching back then because of the colors. You have color coding like Undertaker's in purple, like Sugar's red, white, and blue. Bret Hart is pink. Like Shawn Michaels red and white. Like this stuff, Razor Ramon, he were always gold with everything.
Yep.
Big Daddy
it came
Cool
on-
silver.
on- For me, it came on Fox like right after Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah,
so,
bro,
like
same
right
here.
after X-Men, it would be WWE Superstars. So I always bundled all that stuff in the same sort of realm.
Yeah, because these were like superheroes, and when it comes to like guys like Big Daddy Cool Diesel and like Lex Luger, they actually have the look of like big monstrous superheroes,
Yeah.
and like it all just like blends together. Like
Yeah. Yeah, no, thank you for saying a lot of that. Honestly, it's not something I ever think about or ever consider. Even the idea of like feeling like I'm one of the few people to have a wrestling podcast that might be Asian. I don't really think about it, to be honest. Like I'm just kind of doing it to do
Yeah.
it. So I don't even know what sort of like role I should be having. Like I certainly don't really feel like a bit of a leader or anything like that. I'm just kind of doing it.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
that's the cool part, bro. That you're just doing it. You're not attempting to represent for the people. You're not attempting to speak for us as like so some people love to like stand above and like talk for us as a people. You're just out there doing it and being and grinding, man. You're out there and you're representing without even knowing you're representing, and that's the cool part, man. Like,
Yeah, is that okay? Should I like speak? Should I speak up more on like?
I mean, if you want to, right? If you want to, like, I'm not asking for a job, but like, what you guys put out there, like the Nubian Wrestling podcast. You have Karen on there all the time. You have like, like you have WH on your shows. You guys have like a very diverse set of opinions on your podcast network, and I really appreciate that. And you guys weren't even trying to do any of that stuff. So like to me, that speaks more of your character than like if you were like actively trying to push that, but you're not. It's like it's just something that's happened organically,
Yep.
and to me that's cool. If you do want to push, Asian American podcasts, you got my links. You could, but yeah, man, it's just been a pleasure to have you on. It's an honor, and I want to thank you for myself, for a couple of my friends who also like want to get into this kind of space and just tell your reviews because like I always say like wrestling fans aren't a monolith, but I'm also saying like I also use that for like Asian people. Asian people aren't a monolith. There's
Oh
South
no.
Asians, there's Southeast Asians, there's East Asians. There's even like Kazakhs. It's all just like, but it's all love. It's all love, and I want to tell you, bro, it's all love from here, like from Southern California to from Ontario, California to Ontario, Canada. It's all love, bro.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ron. That's it's yeah, it's been a privilege to even just kind of consider some of these topics. I'd love to do this again whenever you want, because I think there's definitely a lot to discuss.
Yeah.
Issues that that probably exist that we aren't even considering at the moment.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to say that you're considering to come back on because I love these kind of conversations. Even though like a lot of it doesn't have to do with wrestling, we're only talking because of wrestling, and that's the
Yeah.
connection. I do have two questions that I always ask
Sure.
everybody, and I'm going to give you the big one because like, what's your recommendations for food in Canada? Like,
Okay.
what's your food recommendations for Toronto? Because this is also a food podcast.
Oh, is that okay? My food recommendation for Toronto, honestly, it's different often, but my partner and I, we often just love ordering from Koreatown.
Ooh.
Uh, we usually go to I guess on a special occasion we might do Korean barbecue. There are a lot of great places in the strip. Otherwise, we'll just kind of like order a bit of everything from like any of these places that are around Koreatown downtown here on Bloor Street.
All right.
Yeah, like our tastes tend to be more about that. Like we're so spoiled with Chinese food. Like whenever we just kind of eat with our families, that I
Yeah.
never want to order Chinese.
I feel you,
So
brother. I feel you.
yeah,
What,
we for us like ordering like a Filipino meal would be a treat. So yeah,
yeah.
it's honestly kind of different every time, but it tends to be more something involving rice.
Yeah.
So that's our
Right.
preference.
Rice is powerful, brother. When you come down
Yeah.
here, I'm gonna bring you to the Korean all you can eat barbecues.
Nice.
Let me sponsor you.
Oh,
I can't
you
believe.
don't have to do that. Just
No,
show
but-
me where it is.
Yeah, yeah. Like we could like talk turkey over some galbi, and I'll show you like how to dip the galbi into the corn cheese and get like your best
Ooh.
bite, bro. Maybe we could also get some like marinated raw crab. I'm not sure if that reached up there yet, but
Marinated raw crab, that sounds delicious. Although,
Yeah.
like honestly, like last time we were in LA, it was just a lot of the time was spent well eating really all kinds of food, but primarily the Mexican because
Yeah.
Canadian Mexican, like the Mexican up here, I think maybe it's starting to catch up, but it's still a far cry from what you guys have over there, of course.
yeah. Well, actually, now it's three questions. Like, what's your favorite dessert up there? Like, I know it's cold.
Oh, okay.
So, what's like your favorite dessert?
Okay, well, I mean, maybe just more so on the topic.
Yeah.
Like a lot of Chinese desserts are really awesome, and they're not really, I guess, so popular outside yet. But like I really like black sesame soup.
Oh
And
yeah.
when yeah, you must have had it, but
Hell
people
yeah,
who maybe
brother.
haven't, it just looks like tar. But it's delicious. It's just like sweet. A lot of Chinese desserts are very interesting. I just had the best like mango cake
Dude.
that my mom bought for my kids' 1 month anniversary.
Mm.
Anyway, I like Hong Kong egg tarts.
Hell yeah. Dantat.
Dan tat, yeah.
That's dope, man.
Yeah, I really
I'm
like milk tea. Those are sort of like my
yeah.
go-to Hong Kong sort of dessert things.
Yeah. Are you on the Tay Tay stuff? You know, the chewy Tay Tay.
No, what's that? I don't know what
Uh,
that is.
Dang, I guess it's only our family, my wife's family thing. That's like, um, so you know, like, you get like it's kind of like a mochi-ish like pastry kind of thing that you get, and like you like there's a black sesame like tay tay balls. I guess it's only my family that calls them that, but like you know like a black sesame kind of like mochi kind of texture kind of thing, and
Yeah.
like they steam them. I'm like, brother, okay,
Yeah.
if we
Okay.
come up, man, I'll give you some because we have
Yeah.
some in
No,
our
that sounds great. That sounds
yeah.
awesome.
But yeah, man,
Hell
it's
yeah.
been like such a freaking honor, and like it's been a privilege to talk to one of my heroes in podcasting and someone that's a pillar of our community, and of our community that's very small, the Asian American podcast wrestling community. You are a pillar. You're like there's the four pillars, right? But you and WH are the two pillars.
Thanks, man.
um,
And at this point, you're pretty much the third, along with Al from Virtual Pros.
oh
So
yeah,
it's there aren't too many of
yeah.
us.
Oh man, I love Al. Hopefully, I can get him out of retirement. And you know, he always talks about wanting to talk to you, bro.
Yeah, I'll
Oh,
tell you. I'll tell you what. As far as like maybe people in North America, like somebody a name that I think we should be shutting out is Kevin Koo, who's been doing great work
oh, brother,
in
yeah.
GCW. Um, just
Violence
to
is
kind of
forever.
yeah, just to kind of see him maybe be as far as like being an Asian American, getting that sort of um, I don't know, achieving even the status that he's at. I think he's doing great work too.
Yeah. I want to give a shout out to Aaron Solo, personally,
Yeah.
because he's like a hidden Pinoy. Because people don't know that he's Pinoy, but he's Pinoy. So like, shout outs to him. Like shout outs to Kevin Koo. Shout outs to I know like Lady Zhang. She's not from Qingchang, China. She's from Chongqing, China. Um,
That's right.
it's like
Easy mistake to make. I mean,
yeah,
I get it. It's
yeah. It happens. It happens.
yeah, unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah. I like shout out to everybody in this space, even like to my Filipino brother, like thank you, Joseph Montesio, for making those walking the world roads.
Yes.
Thank you for like thank you to like our international like Asian brothers like in Singapore trying to like make a scene out there, the guys in set up Thailand, like
Yeah. Chinese audio wrestling.
yeah.
That's a podcast I listen to sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know it, but my friend Rick runs that one.
Oh, I gotta listen to that. Shout out to
It's in
Tianmin.
Chinese. It's in
Okay.
Cantonese.
I'm sure my wife could like listen to it and then tell me it and then be like so mad that I'm making her listen to something that I'm translating. But for my purposes, I'm trying to learn Canto as well as good as I can. I got the basics
wow.
from training our dog. She sit yeah, sick fun gao, fun. Like that stuff, right?
That's awesome. That's great,
Yeah,
man.
fun
It's a very
guy.
difficult language to
Yeah,
learn.
it's hard to like actually get the vernacular of it, but like I'm slowly starting to understand it because
Yeah.
as a kid I didn't really grow up talking Tagalog, right? But my parents and my grandma spoke Ilocano, and like that dialect kind of is in my head, and I can speak it, and I could also speak Tagalog too because I would watch all the TV, and sometimes my parents would speak it with their friends. And this is a funny story that I haven't told here yet, but when I got shoulder surgery, apparently when I woke up like from the anesthesia, my wife said all I did was speak Tagalog to the nurses, completely fluent, because we were having like
Amazing.
a conversation, and apparently like I was just speaking Tagalog. So hey, pro tip for those of you out there afraid to speak your native tongue, get really high on. No, I'm just joking. But yeah, man, it's been.
Yeah, that's how you get comfortable. Like my wife tells me that I might wake up like when it gets really hot in our room,
Yeah.
like and like our AC is not really working. I'll wake up and I'll say like, "Holy like it's really hot," is what I would say, and like it's just subconscious. You might just revert back to like your first language in
Yeah.
those moments.
Yeah, it's fun. It's cool to like just jump up into like because I say anyam, but then like I say that when like something bad happens, or I say nay, because like that's like a damn like in my language, and like my wife. I like saying lapstop all the time because when I see something that's trash, because like sometimes you have like Dude, I love this stuff, man. I love connecting with you, White. Like
Yeah, likewise.
this is like
Fun, man.
cool, man. you know, but yeah, I just I appreciate you for coming onto my show. I appreciate you for giving us a standard to reach, and I appreciate you for all that you do, man. My last question, because I know you gotta go, because you said you gotta go somewhere in an hour. What do you want your rainbow to say? Because my other podcast titles are Jesus and Mero, the Bodega Boys, rest in peace. Just like I know I'm stealing from them, but like, would you want your rainbow to say? If a rainbow appears out of the sky, what does Wai Ting want to say on his rainbow?
What do I want my rainbow to say?
Yeah.
Uh, like just like a phrase.
Whatever saying you want on it, brother. It's like, it's like whatever you want it to say, a message you want to send out to the world.
Okay. I guess. Let me think about this. Let me think about this because this is very important. So, I actually keep like maybe like a list of quotes, or at least I did at one point.
Yeah.
That I really liked, and I guess one of the ones, trying to look it up right now. This is kind of corny, but let me see. Here, let me just pick one. These are actually way too corny.
Hey, like us Asians, we love corn. Come on.
Here's one I always like. Okay,
Yeah.
as somebody who I think like often struggles with like self-confidence issues, or at least has for most of my life, I like the idea of just I saw this at one like on a video somewhere, and I just took a screenshot of it, and it's kind of been my wallpaper for like a long time, and it was just a simple phrase, and it's basically don't doubt, just do. So I guess it's a bit of a variation on just do it. Just do it. That's what I should want my rainbow to say with the Nike logo.
Brother, that don't doubt, just do it. That's beautiful, man. And if you want to plug all your stuff, here's your chance.
Yeah, that's well. Thank you again for Ron for the space. If you are interested at all in hearing my takes on professional wrestling, you can go to postwrestling.com, or more than likely go to your podcast app and search Post Wrestling, POST Wrestling. We do shows after every Raw, Dynamite, SmackDown, and after every AEW and WWE pay-per-view. That's our offerings on our free feed. If you happen to really like us after sampling our shows, you can consider joining the Post Wrestling Cafe, which is where our full featured sort of roster of shows is. We pretty much do more than a show a day, and you get all the free shows ad free, and also you get extended versions of those with our news discussions and everything. So, but if you just want to sample it as a free listener, if you're listening to this for the first time, we'd appreciate it. So either YouTube or through your podcast app, Post Wrestling.
Yeah, man. Thank you again. It's been such an honor to have you, man.
Yeah, thank you, man. It's been an honor being here, and love to do this again at some point.
Yep. Thanks, man.